Hey everyone, day two. As you recall, on part one, it was really hot and the camera was overheating and I had to just call it. But on day one, we covered the west side of the cemetery. That was graves from the mid 1800s to about early 1900s. This area here is the graves of the original settlers of the area from the mid 1700s going into the mid 1800s. So we'll do a quick walk through and just see what's going on with some of these stones. They look easier to read, which is weird, right? They're older by 100 years, but they're easier to read. I guess it comes down to the materials that were used. And again, I believe these stones are made out of soapstone, which doesn't weather as much. I don't know what the other 1800 stones are made from. If anyone knows, just, please post it below. But let's just go through a few. And if there's anything really overly interesting, I will probably break it out to a shorter video. Not everyone likes these long walkthroughs. I guess if it wasn't for all the moss growing on it, you could probably read that. And right on the edge here is the actual, the newer section. And beyond that wall is where people are still, to this day, are being buried. So we're going to cover that at some other time. But what I really like these 17 and early 1800 stones. The carving is just so, just so incredibly tight. It must have been incredible or really hard to do this. Yeah, we won't go through every single one. We'll just kind of walk through it, and if anything sticks out, what's interesting is you can see there's Margaret Greer, EIR, and James Greer, GREER, and in this whole area it's kind of a mix. So at some point in time they must have changed the spelling of their name. In memory of John, I'll post the last name, who died October AD 1785, aged 13 months. So many young children buried in this area. Very sad. Wow, this one is really detailed. Look at that. Man, the work on these things. Wow, look at the size of these. Revolutionary soldier. Thomas Greer, son of James and Margaret Greer. January 20th, 1828, in the 84th year of his age. He was twice married First to Hannah Alexander, by whom he had 4 children. Second, Margaret, who married, oh, these are the kids. Margaret, who married Colonel Samuel Neal, James Thomas. The second wife was Susanna Spratt. See her headstone. That's incredible. That's funny. See her headstone. So let's find her headstone, and it's right next door. It's very, very large. Wow, it's amazing. She was a daughter of James and Catherine Spratt, and second wife of Thomas Greer, by whom she had 9 children. And then they list the children and who they married. Wow, that is amazing. I'm surprised something that large survived all this time. Here's another Revolutionary War soldier, George Harkness, Sergeant Major, Revolutionary War. That says John Whiteside and Rachel Whiteside. I'll get more info on that. Anything I can't read or I stop at, I definitely will try and get as much info as possible. We got a few under this tree here. Here lies the body of John Blackwood, who departed this life September the 10th, 1779. Rachel Mccord, wife of William Mccord. Yeah, not going to be able to read this one. I'll have to post detail, but little plaque from the Daughters of the American Revolution. So obviously a Revolutionary War soldier. Right here is the Knox family. And you're going to see, a lot of repeat last names. It was a very close-knit community back in the 1700s, and to this day, they're still relatives of the original settlers of this county. And they are also being buried here as well. Right here, that one there, which I'll cover separately, that is Sarah Knox. And that is the oldest burial with a headstone in this cemetery. And I'll cover that a little bit more in detail later, or in another video. In memory of General W.H. Neal, born November 21st, 1799, died December 29th, 1888. I would guess that's Civil War vet. Hannah C. Neal. And these are always interesting too, where they kind of have one stone with two, sacred to the memory of Richard Robinson and Alexander Robinson. Richard died 1789, aged 76 years. Alexander Robinson died July 12th, 1786, aged 30 years. And if you notice, this is the word also, right? That F-style character is an Old English S. Although there's an S right there, right? So I don't know the rules behind that, like when they use that and when they don't use that. If anyone knows, please post that below. That's really interesting to even see that. That's pretty cool. And there's something below here that I'll post as well, but I believe it says, "Why do we mourn departed friends, or shake at death's alarms? 'Tis but the voice that Jesus sends to call us to his arms." And again, you can see the old style S. Daughter of John and Polly Robinson. And that's interesting too. You see that a lot too, where they start and then they finish here, right? So Robinson, who died April 20th, 1809, aged 8 days. There's some really interesting and unique gravestones here. Like, look at this one. I'm wondering if, I don't know, was that? No, I don't think that was made that way. I think they surrounded this old style with the newer to protect it, maybe. But that's really interesting too. Go back a little. Look at that. That's cool. There's a few that way here. There's another one. And this one, that one's not really easy to read, so I'll post that. And this is a more common style than you would think. There was something, I think it was an insurance company called the Woodman of the World, and part of that policy was you would get a gravestone of your choice, depending on how much you pay, of course. I want to do a video on that because I've seen that a lot in the Charlotte area, and there's many different styles, but that one seems to be the more common style. But that's really cool. Here's another unique gravestone. Sloan, children of, I think it says L and Mary Sloan, and you can see there's two footstones right here, so I don't think there's, oh, maybe there is. Maybe there is. Yeah, Louise, June 20, 1899 to September 16th, 1906, I believe. And there's some writing back here. And on this side, I don't know. Sorry, I'll find that out. So we're coming up across the street here is where the mid-1800s stones were that we've been at previously. And here's a little plaque at the beginning of the old area. Notice Mecklenburg is spelled completely differently than it is today. Let's work our way around and back, and then I think that'll pretty much do it for this area. Children of J.W. and S.J. Somerville, infant daughter, July 28th, 1857 to September 6th, 1857. Joseph Osborne, September 22nd, 1860 to October 6th, 1862. And Margaret Caroline, I think that says September 12th, 1868 to December 23rd, 1873. So yes, very young children unfortunately passed away. Robert Ray, born October 1828, died September 9th, 1888, and I believe that finger represents pointing to the heavens. Unfortunately, though, it it broke off. It was upright at some point in time.
Well, everyone, I think that wraps it up for part 2. In part 3, I'm going to point out some more interesting and fascinating graves and monuments. And in chapter 4, we'll visit the newer section. Thanks for watching.